I'm so excited to share with you today some tips and tricks about self-care. What everything is in this group of self-care and what are we going to learn? We will look at stress, which we cover almost in every health and well-being event. We'll talk about the importance of sleep, how long, why, and how can we improve our sleep. We will talk about the choice of movement depending on the level of stress, and of course, how we can nourish our body, but also our senses. What is mental hygiene? How to implement the breath work and find the stillness so that you have a clarity and maybe dive into a personal development. That's my favorite topic. But first of all, for those ones that have never seen me before, who am I? And why do I talk always about all these strategies? So I'm a functional medicine practitioner and nutritionist. And my absolute aim in these health and well-being events is to educate you, entertain you, and encourage you to take a small step. And in functional medicine, we are using this matrix. And as you can see, at the center of the matrix is mental, emotional, and spiritual health. Because if we are truly living our dream life, following our purpose, and having the vision and mission, then the disease stays away. So everything is about having the terrain. And if the terrain is dirty, if I'm looking in my kitchen now, and let's say it could get some clean. So the terrain in the kitchen is not in an optimal state. And then it's more difficult to proceed with cooking and other things. So mental, emotional, and spiritual is the terrain that we need to prepare. And many of my clients in my clinical practice complain about fatigue. And fatigue can have many root causes. It can be because of compromised digestion, so any digestive drama, bloating, farting, diarrhea, constipation, burping, heartburn, you name it. Or it can be defense and repair. It can be immune system. You catch every cold, you have allergies, dry skin, eczemas, or energy. So even though you are sleeping 9, 10, 11 hours every single day, you are tired and it's not helping you to be refreshed after a night's sleep. And this can be maybe because of some nutritional deficiencies, and it can be of use of some drugs like statins, for example. Then we are looking at biotransformation and elimination. So the detox that we covered many times as well. And optimal, it's to do it in September and in springtime, in March. But we are detoxifying every single day. So I will share with you even some strategies of what to eat to support the elimination of all these heavy toxic metals that can actually make you tired. And then transport, communication, structure, integrity, and so on. But I want to bring your attention to the modifiable personal lifestyle factors. And as you can see, one of them is sleep and relaxation, exercise and movement, nutrition, stress, and relationships. So let's dive deeper into the first one, sleep, and how the stress can steal your sleep. So as you know, in functional medicine, we are running cutting-edge functional medicine tests. And one of them, which you could do, and it's super easy, is a salivary cortisol test. And what you do, that in different times of the day, you are collecting a sample of your saliva, and then you just ship it to the laboratory, and it shows you what happens in your body. And there can be a curve, changing curve. And what we normally want is we want to have a higher cortisol in the morning because cortisol helps us wake up, but it should drop in the evening. And as you can see here, it is dropping, but not totally. If there is a chronically elevated cortisol, it is going to suppress melatonin, which is a sleeping hormone. And it's going to be much more difficult to wake up. On the other hand, if, for example, in the morning, you can see 30 minutes after waking up, the cortisol goes down, you are going to have a difficulty to get up. And you would need a cup of coffee or tiramisu, something to pick you up to go throughout the day. Yeah, so this curve can be different, it can be changing, and then from this, we can understand what's happening in your body, and then we can supplement maybe or do other strategies that I'm going to teach you. Yeah, so just remember that high cortisol means poor sleep, and there is no deep recovery. And it's a vicious circle that we are going to break today. In functional medicine, it's all about mapping the territory. And as you can see, we have decision trees for absolutely everything. So first we are gathering data. So if you were to come to me and you would describe your situation, I would maybe even be able to observe by looking at you whether or not you had enough sleep. Do you have dark circles? Do you have white spots on your nails? Do you have white plaque on your tongues? Do you have cracks on your tongues? What is the quality of your hair? But I would be also looking into the medical history, so the questionnaire, how you eat, what you eat, how you live, what's your lifestyle, yeah? And then we would do some other biometrics, so we would be doing also some tests to see it, like the one that I showed you. And upon that, when I collect all the information and I collect it and organize it onto the matrix, I tell you what I see, you correct me if I'm right, and then we are going to order in priorities of what we are going to do. So we are going to co-create it together. But what might happen is that you are either in stage 1, 2, or 3. And then based on that, we are going to look at the modifiable lifestyle factor. So what is stage 1? It's arousal, it's alarm. And it can be just a short-term period that you are going through. And in this situation, we actually want cortisol to be high because it's going to stimulate all the energy. Cortisol breaks down amino acids, protein, to turn it into glucose, sugar, so that we can run away. Yeah? So long term is definitely not good. It's a muscle wastage, but short term, it helps us. It might disturb the sleep because the cortisol is going to be skyrocketing, but you will not feel any deep fatigue. You can, for 1, 2, 3 days, prepare for exams like I was preparing now, and you don't need to compensate with food in this stage yet. You are wired. But then comes the adaptation phase. And adaptation, this is also called allostatic load, because we have homeostasis. That's when everything is as it's supposed to be. And allostatic load is when you give birth to children and you have a demanding job and demanding partner, or you are going through the divorce and then your dog dies, and all of that is just loading, 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 loading. And you are trying to resist all this stress. So after a certain period of time, which can be weeks, months, or for some really strong resistant people, it can be years, you might notice that it's difficult for you to wake up in the morning. And as I showed you the curve, it can be dropping down in the morning and then it's going, for example, up in the afternoon. So peak of the cortisol can be around the lunchtime. And then you might have a second wind late in the evening. So just in the time when you are supposed to go to sleep, you are suddenly like a bunny machine and you can clean and you do lots and lots of things. But over the time, the sleep does not become restorative. And then comes the stage 3, burnout, exhaustion, which you have probably, you surely know somebody who went through the burnout, or maybe you experienced it even yourself, and that's the time to ask for help. So this is when you have increased need for sleep. You can fall asleep on a sofa just when you come from work. You sleep all night, you sleep all weekend, you just don't have energy to exercise, even you would want to, but you are very tired. There are many other symptoms. Some of them I wrote here. So depression is worse in the evening. And I have personally experienced this in a postnatal depression. And there are like many other situations but when it can happen, right? So like postpartum depression, panic attacks, and many other situations. Yeah. So I have experience with this. You might feel having a mental fog, feel sad for no reason, or it gets into the depression. And very interesting in this stage is salt craving. And I tell you why. Because cortisol has been stealing previously all the energy, and it was also increasing aldosterone. Aldosterone is a hormone responsible for the sodium retention and for the high blood pressure. But when there are no precursors, no cortisol, and no aldosterone, the blood pressure goes down. But the body still tries to compensate. So it tells you eat some salt, it's going to bring the blood pressure up, and you will be able to work a little bit more. You might feel dizzy up and standing. It's just completely dysregulated system. And you might notice that the food helps you to release the fatigue. So this is also hypoglycemia. The sugar goes up and down, but drops very low because cortisol that would normally bring the blood glucose into the body is low. It's non-existent. It's exhausted. And so nothing in the body works. So you can see that all the hormones are interconnected. So for example, at the start in different stages, right? So the cortisol is mobilizing all the energy. So actually at the start, it's going to break down the adipose tissue, which is fat in the belly, to turn it into energy, but it's only in the arousal, the first stage. Later on, when the body gets, confused, the cortisol is chronically high, and then it's actually going to start storing the fat on the belly for later. In the adaptation stage, it's not time to spend the energy. It's keeping everything in. But unfortunately, the adipose tissue, the fat on the belly, is going to grow. But fat is an endocrine organ. It on its own produces hormones. Unfortunately, the hormones that we don't want. There is an enzyme called aromatase, and it turns testosterone into estrogen. And for men, it might be man boobs, like really large beer belly. And for women, this large amount of estrogen can be potential risk of a breast cancer, ovarian cancer, because in the fat tissues, in the breast, in the belly, in around the ovaries, there are these receptors for estrogen. Okay, so having too much of the adipose tissue, belly fat, is definitely not what we want. It also is going to disrupt sleep in melatonin and serotonin. Yeah? So melatonin is the sleeping hormone. When cortisol is high, melatonin is low. And serotonin is the happy hormone. When you are under stress, the body does not produce serotonin. Actually messes up also the microbiota, which is the intestine, which normally is responsible for the production of serotonin. And then, of course, when you are under stress, when you have high cortisol, you have high blood glucose levels, sugar, and this is going to spike insulin. And insulin is an anabolic hormone. It's going to save all the energy that finds and turn it into fat. But the problem is that insulin is also increasing inflammation. The inflammation happens in the belly fat, it happens everywhere. It causes leaky gut and so on. And of course, it's going to dysregulate the sex hormones. So you are either going to have too much of the estrogen, potential risk of breast cancer, ovarian cancer, gut cancer, or very low estrogen when it's for a long time, and then there is no period, maybe perimenopause and menopause comes early and so on. And oxytocin is a cuddling hormone. Obviously, there is no time for cuddling, and libido is non-existent. So why do we first always want to start with sleep and stress? Because sleep is very needed for the brain reset. It's for the mental. So in the first stage, as I'm going to show you a little bit later on, is that in the deep sleep, we consolidate all the information. It's like software update. But we also, like the brain shrinks and the spinal fluid can clean this microglia. Microglia, it's immune cells in the brain that also need to be cleared out. Everything in the brain needs to be cleared out, because if you have inflammation in the brain, it can cause Alzheimer, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, and then of course all the signs and symptoms like brain fog, poor memory, consolidation, concentration, and so on. And then we have this emotional part that also gets reset, and it's this amygdala. It's like a thermostat. And actually, it gets very triggered when we have a fear and anxiety of something. And then physical, because of course, during the sleep, we are repairing the muscles and the organs and so on. And then nutritional, because we are, when we are breaking down cells that we don't need, then all these nutrients can be utilized for building new hormones and new stuff that we need. And spiritual, because when we are in the brain, we can also do astral traveling and we can do dreaming. So all this can be our soul, our inner master talking to us. So this is a little bit advanced. How many hours should we really sleep? So optimally 7 to 9 hours. But somebody might say, look, I need only 6, like Elon Musk or other masters in the US, they say they sleep 5 or 6 hours. And I would say it really depends on the quality of the sleep. So in this graph, which is from my Oura Ring, you can see that one day I slept only 5 hours 58, but I had 1 hour 54 of the deep sleep. So remember deep sleep, it's the dark blue line. It is the most important because that's where all the repair and especially the brain happens. And then everything else like REM sleep, it's the dreaming, yeah? So it's only, the only muscle that is not paralyzed, it's the eye muscle. So it's this rapid eye movement. That's what it actually means, rapid eye movement. And all the other muscles in the body are paralyzed. And this is because you are dreaming so that you don't jump out of the window or nothing happens. Yeah, so that's REM sleep. And then we have light sleep. So light sleep is that like everything would probably wake you up. It's like even in the car, when you fall asleep in the car and you are still aware that maybe there's some music, some people, you know you are in the car. So that is light sleep. We need all of them, but mostly the deep sleep and the REM. And if you look at the other picture, I slept for 8 hours, but the quality was absolutely terrible. You can see all these lines. It means how many times I was waking up. It was probably some like mosquito biting me, or I don't know what was happening, but I was up pretty much like all night in March. And the deep sleep, not bad, 1 hour 16, but what is optimal? 1 hour 30 is minimum, okay? So 2 hours would be optimal. And so it's all about the metrics that you want to consider. It's not only the quality of the sleep, but maybe you also want to look at your respiratory rate. Are you breathing like a machine? You definitely want to look at the heart rate variability. So there is a difference between the resting heart rate. That's what we want to have low. You can see that in the sleep. I'm usually around like 44, 46. Yeah. When it goes like lower, like 37, probably means orthostatic hypotension, so really like low blood pressure. There is probably like exhaustion, very low cortisol, and even like exhaustion of the body. So we all know where is our standing point. And then if it goes, for example, the resting heart rate to 50, I know that I'm sick. When the body temperature is down, it means that the estrogen is growing up. It's, for example, for women, follicle phase. And when the temperature goes up, it's after the ovulation, it's the progesterone, it's the luteal phase. And usually when we have more progesterone, that's why we supplement it before we go to sleep. That's certainly what I do. It helps with a deep sleep. Yeah. So then we are also looking at the heart rate variability, because it means how well your heart can adapt to stress. Yeah. So here we want that it goes up and down, that it's zigzag, 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 and not low. And then, of course, you can look at like maybe sport, because sometimes you might do late night exercise, going for a run, and then you cannot fall asleep. And you would see the pattern. This is all about the pattern recognition of your results. So for example, with my clients, pretty much everybody now buys the Aura Ring, and then I help them to understand it, and then we are applying some supplements and seeing if that helped them in whatever matrix. Yeah, so mental and emotional stress, physical stress from the exercise, everything could be tracked, and also what you eat and the supplements. So why should you understand your hormones? So for every woman, of course, it's important to understand the hormones, to know what to eat, how to move, and how to understand the body, and recognize again the pattern if there is like too much of the estrogen or if the temperature is really high. But what I also want to say with the temperature, so yeah, the temperature can show us the menstrual cycle, but as you can see here on the graph, here I had fever. And so it can completely mess up the readings of the temperature. Yeah? But even this can tell you in advance if you are going to be sick or not. So what can keep you awake and what you would definitely want to avoid? Well, it would be coffee, alcohol, green tea, and black tea in the afternoon and in the evening. Alcohol preferably forever avoiding coffee, one coffee a day. If you don't have any gastric issues, heartburn, it should be fine. Green tea is the best after lunch, actually, because it helps to burn the calories, speed up the metabolism, and helps with the digestion. Green tea as well. Sorry, the black tea as well. And green tea has many great functions. It helps to activate phase 1 and phase 2 in the liver, so helps with the detoxification. It also burns fat. It helps to lower the LDL, but cholesterol, so many things. So green tea, phenomenal. But if you cannot drink it because maybe the tannins irritate you, you can still take it in supplements. And supplement timing also matters, because magnesium we want to take 1 to 2 hours before we go to sleep. The only magnesium that you would be taking during the day would be magnesium malate, because it's helping with the energy. But any other like magnesium, I mean, magnesium oxide, I wanted to say, but that one is to remove constipation. But magnesium, for example, citrate, magnesium carbonate. There are many magnesiums on the market. You just need to know also what other things you want to target. And then we need B vitamins because they're for the nervous system, it's calming. We need vitamin C, but not in the evening, because vitamin C is energizing you. Yeah. And also adaptogens can be stimulating. So for example, if you take rhodiola rosea in the afternoon, your sleep might be disturbed. So rhodiola rosea on the empty stomach in the morning helps with the cortisol balance. Yeah. Then we, for example, have ashwagandha. That's what you can take in the afternoon. This one is with zinc as well. If you need to concentrate preparing for the exam, the best is the L-theanine. This comes from the green tea, but doesn't have the waking effect of the green tea. It's just L-theanine, and it really helps because I was now preparing for exams, and it got me into the flow, and I could really focus. And then if you need a good night's sleep, because it's difficult for you to fall asleep, it's phosphatidylserine. That is within 15-20 minutes, helping to fall asleep. And how do I know? Again, because I tested it and many of my clients love it as well. So you want to avoid some food before you go to sleep. And why? So for example, aged cheese, red wine, and fermented foods, which might be healthy. It might be sauerkraut, kimchi. But if you have histamine intolerance, histamine, it's like amine, it's like adrenaline. It's going to kickstart you and you will not be able to fall asleep. The same can be for people when they eat peppers, aubergine, and tomatoes, because it's a nightshade family. It triggers actually even people who have autoimmune disease, they cannot support it. And especially raw pepper, that is very difficult to digest. Mushrooms, because they have theramine, and it's also triggering the neurotransmitters in the brain. So mushrooms, morning for breakfast, lunch, but don't have it for dinner. And chocolate actually also has some caffeine and this theobromine, which can be triggering. So going for a sleep and having some chocolate before that is also not a good idea. And then, of course, if you, for example, have compromised digestion, then high-fat meals or high sugar, high carb might be disturbing, either heartburn or stomach ache. So here is a list of histamine intolerance. What are the signs and symptoms? And as you can see, in more than 90%, it would be bloating. Yeah, so that's a severe symptom. But also abdominal pain, constipation, dyspepsia, heartburn, nausea, irritability, insomnia, food allergies. What I see very often with my clients is, for example, acne, hives, eczema, psoriasis, headaches. Like I had one glass of wine and the headache was so much stronger than anything else, right? Sweating, chest pain, difficulty breathing, urticaria, yeah? That's what my daughter actually has when she eats too many strawberries, which triggers histamine. So this is all about trial and error. You try some of the food, you are writing down in your journal what you were eating, and then you are observing the pattern, which food you react to. But let's say which food is good for you. Almonds, turkey, eggs. Actually, before you go to sleep, to have even one hard-boiled egg 2 hours before going to sleep is beneficial. Cottage cheese, because this food is high in tryptophan. And tryptophan is a precursor to serotonin. And serotonin is a precursor to melatonin, the sleeping hormone. Can you see how it all works? If somebody has dysbiosis or some parasites in the intestine, they have gastrointestinal issues, they have autoimmune disease, they have like gut-brain complications. Usually they don't have enough serotonin, and then they also don't have enough melatonin. They don't have this profound sleep. Yeah? Already mentioned to you magnesium 400 milligrams, and protein, eating protein throughout the day is definitely going to be beneficial and helps with the neurotransmitters, muscle repair. But maybe you will say, every time when I have some protein shake or eat too much of the meat, I just cannot digest it. It's almost like it's sitting in my stomach. I would invite you to do a baking soda test to discover if you have actually enough hydrochloric acid. So how are you going to do it? You take a quarter of the teaspoon of baking soda, mix it into 200 milliliters of water, and you immediately drink it on an empty stomach in the morning. You take your stopwatch, pen and paper, and you start writing when you start burping. You know, imagine if you drink soda, you would drink Coke in one go. You know how many carbonated drinks you exhale and it bubbles up. And this should be happening with the baking soda as well, providing you have enough hydrochloric acid in your stomach. But believe me, many of my clients, they're sitting for 5 minutes and nothing happens. And then it explains why they have the dry skin, why they have peeling brittle nails, why they have problems with their gums, with teeth, why they cannot lose weight, why they cannot build muscle, why they have like brittle hair and all of that. And usually the root cause is hypochlorhydria, low hydrochloric acid. And then we are doing the strategies to improve it. The other test that I wanted to do is a beetroot urinary test for many reasons. So you take maybe 2 large beetroots, raw. You grate it, mix it with lemon, olive oil, and you eat it for lunch. Empty stomach, 2 big beetroots for lunch. And then you start observing when does the color of your urine change and what is the color. Is it pink, red, orange, yellow? Is it stinky? Yeah. So you write all of this down. And then you also observe your stool, because the red raw beetroot is definitely going to give color to your stool. And you will see it. You are not going to miss it. Is it going to be in the toilet the next day in the morning or the day after? Because you might be thinking, but I go to the toilet every single morning, right? But maybe there is a traffic in your intestine, and maybe the lock that falls into the toilet is something that you have been eating 2 days ago. So this tells you about the transit time. And longer the transit time, more bacterial overgrowth, more hormones reabsorption, more risk of cancer, and so on. So these 3 tests are absolutely brilliant to do. And I would wonder what was the result for you. So which food is good for you? This I have taken from the literature, but what I would personally recommend and what I don't recommend. So the literature says that if you mix milk, honey, and if you eat oatmeal and banana and kiwi and dark chocolate, you are going to fall asleep quickly. Would I maybe recommend it for a small child that is scared and it calms him down to have milk and doesn't have any allergies to cow's products and so on? Maybe it would work and maybe our ancestors were doing it, but I wouldn't really recommend it. Here is like explanation why it would work, because it calms down the nervous system and because it is high in magnesium and B6, which supports the serotonin. But would that not be better to take it in a supplement rather than triggering the high blood glucose levels by eating the banana and oatmeal in the evening if we are not using the energy? Kiwi is good, right? So kiwi not in the evening, but if you take it in the morning, it can increase the serotonin and folate, and it has antioxidants. And then dark chocolate, again, during the day, not in the sleep, is a source of magnesium and has some calming polyphenols. So for somebody, it can work. What I usually recommend more, of course, is botanicals. So if you are going through a difficult stage in your life and you want to have a profound sleep, then in any pharmacy, you would get this herbal mix, chamomile, passion flower, melissa, rosemary. Or obviously, you can take all of that also in tinctures or in supplements, yeah? And so they help to increase GABA. Gamma aminobutyric acid is the neurotransmitter that is released after hours and hours of meditation. Yeah, so kind of you skip the hours and hours of meditation and fall asleep easily. And it definitely helps to reduce anxiety and calm the HP axis, which basically means hypothalamus, pituitary gland, and adrenal, which is stress. Yeah. And what can also keep you awake? Sometimes it's a medication. Sometimes it can be painkillers that can reduce the deep sleep. Or it can be corticosteroids because they are mimicking stress. And I have seen this as a mistake of many of my clients that when they have some skin issues, they are putting corticosteroids on in the evening, but it's not good. So if you need to use corticosteroids, then it's probably like in the morning. But anyway, it's just a plaster on a problem. It's not going to solve it. It's better to dig deeper and find out what is causing the issues that you have. And then beta blockers and statins, so they reduce melatonin and they actually deplete so many vitamins and minerals that are needed for the sleep and for the function of the body. So I always recommend to my clients who take beta blockers and statins definitely to take coenzyme Q10, zinc, magnesium, and so on, and B vitamins. And then those ones that are using antidepressants and dopamine blockers for bipolar, they might have suppressed rapid eye movement, or they might have like extremely vivid dreams. So remember, it is all about the daily routine. Yeah, so it's collecting the drops, what you do, cumulative effect. So mental, emotional, physical, nutritional, spiritual is very important. And the only person that stresses you is yourself. It's your perception of the life. And I know how easy it is to say this, and then it's difficult to apply all these things, challenging. Yeah. So there is a difference between change and transformation. Change, the smoker says, I'm going to stop smoking. Yeah. And stops for 1 week, or a dieter says, I'm going to do a drastic detox for 3 weeks, and then they come back to their routine. And transformation means you pass the border and you know that there is no way back. Yeah? But there are stages that you go through before the transformation happens. So don't punish yourself for that. Take it as it is, but try to do not one step forward, two step back, but two steps forward, one step back. So what can you do to improve your sleep? This is my bedroom, and I have this beautiful view, and I have this beautiful mask, this red light mask that I actually don't use that much, but I should. And even this massage for the back, which stimulates the blood flow into the brain and into the spine. And I'm reading before I go to sleep. This is a holotropic breathwork, and I highly, highly recommend to everybody to try the workshop of holotropic breathwork. My favorite book, Paulo Coelho, that I read in different languages. I, for example, even upgraded. I don't use a wake-up alarm very often. That would be like once a year when I need to travel at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning that I would switch it on. But this one is with sound of birds, and it slowly, slowly, slowly starts to increase the sound. Yeah, so it's very natural in the wood. It's beautiful. I recommend. What else I recommend is the breathing, and we have done it so many times that now you must know it by heart. Let's maybe review once more the alternative nostril breathing. So it was inhaling through the left, then covering the left nostril, exhaling through the right. Then you inhale through the right, cover, and exhale through the left. And basically what you do is you are balancing the masculine and feminine energy. So the right one is masculine and the left one is feminine. So we start with feminine, ladies first, and we finish with feminine. And what else can you do? I love David G. He's my favorite meditation teacher. It's a guru. And I highly recommend finding his beautiful opening chakras or heal your body meditation, guided meditations. I also like affirmations, and I sometimes listen to them when I cycle, when I go for a walk, because you don't have to focus on it. It's your subconscious mind that is going to absorb it. Deepak Chopra, absolute great short reminders. And then Tulum vibes. Yeah, this is more for yoga or just meditation, moving meditation. So let's summarize. We looked at sleep. By now you know about duration, about quality, what can disturb your sleep, caffeine, alcohol, and so on. We did not talk about yoga and meditation today too much, but we were talking about it in a previous session. I gave you some tips on the nutrition, what not to eat and what could be good. I explained to you everything about stress. Stress, 70% of the doctor's visits is because of the stress. Yeah. And how can we balance it? Decreasing the stressors and increasing the laughter and singing and humming or chanting Om. And then the relationship, how important are the relationships in our life? And then again, mental, emotional, and spiritual. So prayer, meditation, knowing your purpose. Why are you here? And reminding yourself. For this, that would be the vision board, which we are surely going to talk in the next sessions.